This is not just a story of gods and angels. It is a story about you. Before time was counted, before the sun and moon began their celestial dance, there was only the vast expanse. From this primordial silence, two beings emerged. Uranus, the sky, a canopy of starlight and infinite possibility, and Gaia, the earth, a vessel of life, rich with soil and stone, waiting to create. They were the first lovers, the first parents. Their union was the birth of the cosmos itself. Their first children were a marvel to behold. The 12 Titans, radiant, perfect, and divine. They were figures of immense power and breathtaking beauty, reflections of their father's starlit majesty and their mother's boundless life. They walked the young earth as gods, their forms echoing the harmony of the new creation. Uranus looked upon them and saw his own perfection mirrored. He was content. The universe, he believed, was complete. But Gaia, the earth, was not finished. Her creative force was a wellspring that could not be contained. Deep within her, something new stirred, something different, and so her next children were born. They were not like the Titans. They were raw, primal forces of nature given form. This was the first generation of the Cyclopes. Their names were Brontes, the Thunderer, Sterops, the Lightner, and Arges, the Vivid One. They were massive, their bodies like mountains hewn from the living rock of their mother. But all who looked upon them saw only one thing, the single, solitary eye that blazed in the center of their foreheads. It was an eye that saw not the surface of things, but the fiery heart of creation itself. Their hands, rough and powerful, were not made for delicate gestures, but for shaping the very elements. They were the first and greatest craftsmen the world would ever know. In their hands, metal and fire would one day become weapons of divinity. Uranus, the Sky Father, gazed down from his celestial throne, and what he saw filled him not with paternal pride, but with a cold, creeping dread. These children were a discordant note in his symphony of perfection. Their single eye, their immense, unrefined power, it was an aberration, a monstrous stain upon his legacy. He saw not the master artisans, but an ugly, chaotic force that threatened the order he had established. He saw in them a reflection of a wildness he feared, a potential he could not control, and fear, as it so often does, gave birth to cruelty. He could not bear the sight of them. He could not tolerate their existence in his perfect world. So, with a heart turned to stone, Uranus, the father, committed an unspeakable act. He seized his own children, the mighty Cyclopes, and cast them down. Down from the light of the sun, down from the embrace of their mother, into the deepest, darkest pit of the underworld, the abyss of Tartarus. He bound them in eternal darkness, hoping to erase his perceived mistake, to bury the imperfection he could not stand to acknowledge. He did the same to their other monstrous siblings, the Hecatoncheires, the 100-handed ones, burying all that was wild and strange deep within the earth. Gaia, the earth, felt this act as a physical wound. Her children, born of her own substance, were ripped from her and imprisoned within her own body. The laughter of the Titans on the surface became a hollow echo, drowned out by the silent screams from the depths. Her sorrow was a chasm, a deep, aching void. But as the ages passed, that sorrow began to curdle. It hardened, it sharpened, it became a quiet, simmering rage. A promise of vengeance against the husband who would mutilate his own family out of vanity and fear. The harmony of the cosmos was broken, and a seed of rebellion was planted deep in the heart of the earth. This ancient tale of gods and monsters echoes through the corridors of our own lives. For what are the Cyclopes, really? They are not just mythical creatures with a single eye. They are a symbol of the parts of ourselves that we, or the world around us, deem imperfect, unconventional, or even monstrous. They represent our raw, untamed potential, our strange gifts, the powerful, creative urges that don't fit into the neat, orderly boxes of expectation. Think of the passion you were told was too intense, the dream you were told was too unrealistic, the part of your personality you were told was too loud, too quiet, too strange. These are your Cyclopes. We all have them. They are the parts of our soul that carry immense, primordial power. The power to create, to build, to forge new realities. And, like Uranus, we are often terrified of them. We fear what this power might do if unleashed. We fear the judgment of others who see only the monstrous single eye and not the master craftsman's hands. And so, we do what Uranus did. We take these vital parts of ourselves and we cast them down into the Tartarus of our own psyche. We bury them under layers of conformity, of self-doubt, of playing it safe. We imprison our own greatest strengths because we are afraid of how brightly they might shine, and how different that light might look. But just as Gaia could not forget her imprisoned children, our soul never forgets what it has buried. The suppression of our true potential doesn't lead to peace. It leads to a deep, internal sorrow, a feeling that something is missing, a quiet rage that simmers beneath the surface of our carefully constructed lives. We become our own jailers, and the Earth Mother's pain becomes our own silent anguish, the chronic ache of an unlived life. The cosmic drama plays out within us, a silent war between the fear of being different and the soul's desperate cry for wholeness. But the story doesn't end in darkness. It never does. What is rejected is not destroyed, it is merely waiting. The rage of Gaia would eventually fuel a rebellion. A new king of the gods would rise, one who would understand that to win the ultimate war, he would need the very power his father had feared and buried. He would descend into the abyss. The Cyclopes, those dark and monstrous children, were not forgotten forever. Their time in the darkness was not an end, but a gestation. In the belly of the earth, their power did not wane. It concentrated. They would one day be freed, not as monsters to be feared, but as the saviors of the new order. Their hands, once deemed grotesque, would forge the very thunderbolts of Zeus, the trident of Poseidon, and the helm of Hades, the instruments of cosmic liberation and power. The very thing that Uranus cast away as an imperfection became the source of ultimate strength. The stone the builder rejected became the cornerstone of a new heaven and a new earth. So look within. Look into your own personal Tartarus, the place where you have hidden your power, your strangeness, your light. What have you been taught to fear in yourself? That is where your thunderbolt lies waiting. That is where your true creative genius resides. To embrace your inner Cyclops is not to unleash a monster. It is to reclaim the most powerful, authentic, and creative part of your being. It is the beginning of your own liberation. The monsters we bury are often just the gods we have not yet learned to recognize. God Story Reborn. Subscribe for more stories of light and rebirth.